Hello and welcome to Doki Doki Dollmaker. This is a boys' love game, and according to the shop page the genres are romance, comedy, slice of life and magic. With that and the image here and the title, you can, I think, already see where this is going. So when I first noticed this game, it was actually because of the art style that I recognized from other visual novels like C14 Dating or Cute Demon Crushers, which are all very cute and wholesome in their own way. But this is by different devs, just the artist is the same. I'm also not quite sure yet how wholesome this is going to be. From the summary alone, I know this is at least going to be dealing with grief, as the MC lost his parents. On the shop page there's also a link to a list with all the warnings, which I did not click because it was marked for spoilers and I hate spoilers. But if there's anything you are worried about, pause the video, go on over to the itch page that is linked in the description below and check it out for yourself if you think you'll need it. Yeah, but overall this is going to be rated like T, 13+. And as you can see up here, this is the demo, the extended demo. So let's just have a look. Would you like to view content warnings? Okay, so you can also view it in here, but I choose not to. Are you over the age of 18? Yes, I am. I don't think this is going to really matter for the demo. I hope not, considering this is YouTube. So, wait, should I maybe go with no for this? Okay, so just for the sake of YouTube, I'm gonna say no, just to be safe, okay? But just to know, there is this option if you don't want to see any spicy content, I guess. Ouch! Lyle sucked on the side of his index finger where the sewing needle had pricked him. It's your own fault, Squirt. I told you not to sew in the car. I know. Lyle brushed off his brother's warnings and continued to work on his project in the back seat. The road was smooth until just a minute ago. That's because I got off the highway. We're almost there. Want a caramel? Lyle shook his head. He was too immersed in his sewing project to stop for a snack. Paul shrugged and ate his share. What are you working on back there anyway? A gift for your big brother? A gift? For what? For driving all this way? It's not like you had a choice. Ouch! His finger throbbed where the sewing needle had jabbed it again. The bumpy road was making this difficult, but he couldn't stop now. He was almost finished. Lyle stretched out across the back seat and held the sewing project above him with great pride. Grinning at the little face looking down at him, he became lost in thought. Well, what have you been working on? Huh? Oh. Well, I found this old sewing kit in Mom and Dad's closet. I know we donated most of their stuff, but I thought I'd at least keep this. I made some dolls with the materials inside. Dolls, huh? How many have you made so far? 5, once this one's finished. I don't think I'll have enough fabric for 6 though. I'm already picking at scraps. 5's plenty. Do you think Mom ever used this kit? Like to hem pants or stuff? Lyle knew his brother didn't like talking about their parents, but he couldn't stop himself from asking. Or like to patch up Dad's old shirts? Who knows? I miss them. We've reached town. Try to finish up. Lyle sighed as he sat up to make the final touches on his project. After a few stitches, he tied off the ends of the thread and placed the newly completed doll with the other 4. He smiled widely at the 5 dolls sitting beside him in the back seat. Moving might not feel so lonely now. Things might have been a little easier if Cole wasn't so miserable. Maybe the dolls could put a smile on his face. Hey, want to see them? Lyle excitedly gathered the tiny dolls in his hands before his brother could answer. They've got names and everything, look! Lyle leaned forward and held the 5 dolls out to his brother in the driver's seat. Knock it off, I'm trying to drive. Wow. Cole slammed on the brakes and the car came to an abrupt stop. Lyle was flung forward between the driver and passenger seats with his feet high in the air. You're not wearing any seatbelt or what? Dangerous. Ow, ow, ow! That's what I get for not wearing a seatbelt. Good thing we weren't going too fast. Yeah, that's dangerous. Excuse me? You idiot. Cole smacked the back of Lyle's head. Deserved. I'd better check to make sure we didn't hurt anyone. Stay put. Lyle groaned as his brother angrily left the car. He gathered the scattered dolls before straightening himself out. Rubbing his head with one hand and holding the dolls with his other arm, Lyle looked out the car window. He watched Cole check up on an elderly man outside of the vehicle. The old man was small in stature, hunching forward as he leaned on a wooden cane. He had a bushy brow that stretched across his forehead and a lone curly strand of hair atop his balding head. Cole was obviously flustered, worried that they might have hurt the stranger, but the old man didn't seem troubled at all. In fact, he had a warm smile on his face and seemed to enjoy the conversation. After a few moments, Cole returned to the car with a heavy sigh. He seems to be all right. Put your belt on. Lyle glanced out the car window as he buckled up. He thought he should apologize to the old man himself. After all, it was his fault they had almost hit him. Lyle bowed his head apologetically to the old man, who smiled pleasantly and waved goodbye as they drove off. Lyle waved back slightly, a little puzzled. What a strange old man. You're lucky we didn't hurt him. He invited us to see his toy shop sometime. That's convenient. But you'll probably be grounded for a few weeks after that stunt, so don't get your hopes up. Lyle scratched his cheek sheepishly, wondering if Cole was serious about grounding him. Would be understandable, really. I'm wondering how far did they drive, really, if he made 5 whole dolls in one car trip, as it sounded? So was the drive long? Or is he just really fast? Well, guess that's not important. Here we are. They had finally reached their new home. Lyle gazed at it with great uncertainty as they pulled up. It was a simple-looking house. No complicated or bulky additions. No sloppy renovations or patch-ups. Even the shrubs out front were well kept. It seemed cozy enough, but Lyle was uneasy. He knew that things would be different here. Lonely. Come on, get your things. Cole left the car and began to pull some items from the trunk. Lyle looked down at the dolls in his arms and realized that he needed to free up his hands to help his brother. He stuffed 2 dolls into the front pocket of his pants and fit the remaining 3 into the front pocket of his lightweight sweater. He lazily climbed out of the vehicle and walked around to the back of the car. What was Cole's rush anyway? It wasn't like this would take long. They had already hired a moving company to bring most of their things ahead of time. Cole had been back and forth for weeks unpacking and making various arrangements. He had assured Lyle that it would be just like home, but Lyle knew that wasn't possible. Okay, maybe so it's not that far away if he's been back and forth. Where does he work that he has the time to do that? I'm thinking too much. Cole grunted as he lifted a large heavy box, full of his books no doubt. He called out to Lyle as he made his way into the house. Get moving. I'm sure you'll want to rearrange the stuff I unpacked for you. Lyle nodded and picked up one of the boxes marked with his name. He'd kept organized while packing, so nothing would get lost. The thought of accidentally leaving a game or manga behind, especially one that was part of a series, was too unbearable. Packing aside, though, he rather enjoyed sorting things. It kept his mind from wandering. The box wasn't terribly heavy, but maneuvering proved to be much more difficult. Lyle made his way into the house, barely squeezing through the front door, as the box swayed back and forth in his arms. Its contents tumbled about inside with his awkward movements. It wasn't long before the box finally tipped forward and Lyle lost his grip on it. Oopsie! The box was suddenly stable and upright. Lyle blinked in confusion. That didn't sound like Cole's voice at all. Was someone else living here? Lyle peered around the side of the box and spotted the bright, smiling face of a teenage girl. You almost fell. Good thing I caught the box. She grinned proudly at Lyle. Thanks. I'm sorry, but do you live here? No, but wouldn't that be funny if I did? Could you imagine? So you just walked into a stranger's house? You're not a stranger, you're my neighbor. Here, let me take this up for you. The girl snatched the box from Lyle's hands and proceeded to run up the staircase with it. Hey, wait! He chased after her, fumbling up the staircase with his hands extended in front of him as if to catch her. He didn't stand a chance, though. She was exceptionally fast. Once upstairs, she turned the corner and darted toward the first room. Focused on regaining his stolen box, Lyle ignored the other unexplored rooms and pursued the thief into the nearest one. The only place she could run now was out the window. I mean, it's not a thief if she's just bringing bugs into the room, into the house. But okay. Lyle leaned against the door frame, catching his breath. The girl placed the large box down on the ground, then casually fell back onto the mattress. Did you think I was going to run off with your things or something? It was clear she could barely contain her laughter. This girl was bold and brash, the opposite of Lyle in every way. You've got a lot of nerve. Did you say you're my neighbor? Yep, my name's Tilly. I live next door. My mom sent me over to help you guys with your boxes. She's always making me do stuff. She says I have too much energy, but is it even possible for someone to have too much energy? I mean, come on. A bead of sweat formed on Lyle's temple as he let out a weak laugh. I'm Lyle. Thanks for helping out, I guess. He finally took a moment to examine the room. Coincidentally, she had brought his belongings to the correct one. All of Lyle's furniture and possessions were here. He could tell Cole had tried to make it look as welcoming as possible by hanging a poster on the wall and even setting a potted plant by the window. Lyle plopped himself down on the floor and began to dig through his box of things. A part of him was annoyed at Cole for thinking a weed would somehow make this place feel like home. So, who's the grumpy guy downstairs? Oh, that's Cole. He's my older brother. He looks like a wet blanket. Are your parents that uptight? Lyle froze. There was a long pause. They passed away recently. That's why we had to move here. Oh, I'm so sorry. It's all right. You didn't know. Lyle sniffed and began rummaging through the box again quietly. Tilly looked around the room, desperate to find a new topic. Hey, what's that? Tilly jumped up from the bed and ran toward the door. Lyle spun around to watch her, wondering what she'd found. She bent over and picked something up off the ground. Lyle's eyes opened wide as he saw one of his dolls, the yellow-haired one from a sweater pocket, in Tilly's hands. How? It must have fallen out of my pocket after I ran up the stairs. He looked around the room in a panic, trying to think of some excuse for the doll being there. He couldn't tell her it was his. She would laugh in his face. Boys didn't typically play with dolls. He'd be called childish, or worse, be labeled a pervert. Tilly examined the doll, turning it this way and that. Ugly. Tilly tossed the doll behind her shoulder as she scoffed. Without thinking, Lyle scrambled across the floor toward it, catching the doll just before it hit the ground. He sighed heavily, happy the doll was safe in his hands. Tilly blinked at him in surprise. Realizing what he'd just done, Lyle tensed up with embarrassment, and his face flushed a deep red. How am I supposed to explain the doll now? She just watched me die for it. Lyle, you idiot! He closed his eyes tightly and waited for Tilly to laugh at him. Now these are cute! Lyle's eyes shot open and he turned around to look at Tilly, who was holding two more dolls, one in each hand. How many dolls fell out of my pockets? I have the worst luck ever. Lyle jumped up to his feet and waved his hands about wildly in front of him. It's not what it looks like. Did you make these? Tilly continued to examine the dolls, completely oblivious to Lyle's frantic state. Lyle sighed in defeat. What could he do? It wasn't like he had a little sister he could blame them on. It wouldn't be the first time he was made fun of. He accepted whatever insults awaited him. Yeah, I did. Cool! Lyle blinked in surprise. Really? Yeah, they're well made. I like the little details you put into their clothes. And their button eyes are so cute. Do you have any more? Tilly looked at Lyle with a bright smile. Her sincerity shocked him. She was genuinely interested in knowing more about the dolls. Lyle could see it in her eyes. He hesitated for a moment before pulling the remaining 2 dolls from his pockets. Tilly squeaked with joy and grabbed the dolls from Lyle's hands. So cute! Thanks. He smiled humbly, rubbing the back of his head with his hands. A voice suddenly beckoned from outside. The room's windows were open, so it was heard loud and clear. Oops, that's my mom. I'd better get going. Tilly pushed the 4 dolls she was holding back into Lyle's arms and scrambled out of the room, but it wasn't long before she poked her head back in to say her goodbyes. School starts tomorrow, you know. You guys sure got here late. There's only one school in the area, so that means we'll be attending the same one. I guess so. I'll visit tomorrow morning and we'll walk there together. I've decided. But... Don't forget your uniform. This is taking place in a specific country. But anyway, I mean, that's good, isn't it? Already having a friend at a new school. Or even if not a friend, then at least someone who can show you the way and everything. Tilly barely finished her sentence before darting down the stairs and out of the house. Lyle chuckled. She sure is energetic. His smile faded as he looked around the room once more. I guess this is my bedroom now, huh? It was troubling for him to see familiar items in an unfamiliar place. He wondered how long it would take him to get adjusted. I should get the rest of my boxes at least. Lyle placed the dolls on the nearby desk to free up his hands. There's our first good look at them. I think the designs are really cute. And really, if he did make all these clothes in one car ride, nah, there's where the magic already happened. He set them next to each other in the order they were made, propping their little plush forms against the wall. Once all 5 were lined up, he sighed softly. Torin, Decifer, Rook, Allery, Cavil. And that's the only one I'm not quite sure of if I'm pronouncing the name right. Feel free to correct me. Please, help me through all of this. It was evening by the time the 2 brothers stopped to eat. Lyle sat at the kitchen table while Cole prepared their simple dinner. It was quiet. Is this how things will be from now on? Lyle's heart sank at the thought. He missed his parents. He remembered the meals they shared together each day. His father would be cooking up a storm in the kitchen. He always prepared more food than they could eat. His mother would hum a soft tune while she set the table. She would always pat Lyle gently on the head as she passed by. A loud grumble interrupted Lyle's memories. Lyle's face flushed with embarrassment. He hadn't eaten all day. It's almost ready. Cole finished preparing dinner and served Lyle a bowl of soup with some bread on the side. Thanks. Cole nodded and sat down across from Lyle. He adjusted his glasses and began reading a newspaper on the table, sipping his soup occasionally. He broke the silence after a short while. Your school uniform is hanging up in the closet. You'll have to make it there on your own tomorrow, since I'm starting work early. Think you'll be all right? Lyle nodded. After he finished eating, he washed the dishes and went upstairs. Yeah, okay, that was a bit awkward and silent. Well. He closed the bedroom door and leaned against it, his heart heavy. Lyle crawled into bed and wrapped his large blanket around himself. It still smelled like home. With that single breath, countless thoughts rushed into his mind. He closed his eyes tightly as he imagined his mother's warm embrace. He could almost hear her soft voice comforting him, telling him everything would be all right, and that change wasn't such a scary thing after all. For a moment, Lyle was far away from this new place and all the uncertainty that came with it. Far away from his fears and anxiety. Far away from everything. Yet he couldn't escape. The reality was all around him. This place wasn't home, and Lyle was convinced that it never would be. His eyes began to well with tears. Everything had happened so fast. He felt so alone. He knew his brother was suffering too, but unlike Cole, Lyle couldn't pretend that he was all right. His body wouldn't let him. Lyle hugged his knees close to his chest and quietly cried himself to sleep. Oh boy. Were we told how long ago that this happened? I mean, not that time necessarily makes things easier, or how to say. Everyone takes different amounts of time to deal with stuff. Lyle sat up in bed with a jolt. He cringed at the sound of his alarm clock ringing and turned it off with an irritated slap. What a terrible way to wake up every morning. School was bad enough. Yeah, I cannot stand those kinds of alarms. I have to wake up to like music. Which, granted, is easy to just hit the snooze button then. But getting jolted from sleep, oh my god, no. No thank you. Classes start today. His stomach twisted at the thought. Lyle wasn't a particularly social person, but with presentations and group projects, school sometimes forced him to be. He wasn't sure if he'd be able to make any friends, but it was fine if he didn't. Lyle just wanted to get his classes over with so he could come back and do the things he enjoyed. If there isn't a going home club, I'll start one. He smiled feebly to himself, only half joking. Lyle looked around his room and, ignoring the unpacked boxes on the floor, spotted the 5 little dolls he'd made sitting on the nearby desk. He smiled softly as he got out of bed to approach them. Lifting them up in his arms, he looked down at the dolls, a strange thought overcoming him. Okay, so we got a choice here. So, it is a boys' love game. We have our love interests. Really meeting them eventually, though I think you already guessed. But from what was on the page, on the shop page, it said it's mostly like a kind of linear story and only changes by like the choices only affect like dialogues and the romance options, I think. But in any case, we do have a choice here, and it is either kiss the dolls, no one's looking, or put them down. How silly. Well, I'm going to do my first save here, because why not? And you know what? This boy needs a little love, so why not? Let's kiss the dolls. Lal checked his surroundings with suspicious eyes. All was clear. He quickly kissed each one of their little heads. Wait, what was he thinking? His cheeks flushed and he let out a chuckle as he placed the dolls back down on the desk. Lyle began to get ready for school. After taking a quick shower, he changed into his new school uniform. He glanced over at the dolls again while straightening his tie. Why was he so drawn to them? Maybe it was because he hadn't spent much time with them. He felt a little guilty for making the dolls, only to drop them down on a desk. It couldn't hurt to bring one of them to school with me. Really? Like, I'm not saying it's weird or anything, just in terms of how worried he was about getting judged by Tilly the day before. I would think bringing them to school would make you even more worried that someone there would notice, would see it. And the chance of someone at your school being an asshole about it, well, yeah. Couldn't hurt to bring one of them to school with me. Really. He bit his lower lip, trying to decide if it was a good idea or not. It's just one. I'll keep the doll in my bag so no one will see it. He nodded in approval of the decision and looked over the dolls. Which one should I take with me? Yeah, the yellow-haired doll, the orange-haired doll Decipher, pink-haired doll Rook, green-haired doll Ellery, or the brown-haired doll Cavell. So it's a bit mean to lead with that when you don't even know their personalities. Though, well, on the shop page there's already a bit of a snippet for each of these characters. And my instinct is that Ellery will be the one that I like. So I'm going with that. Lyle quickly stuffed Ellery into his backpack before heading downstairs to make breakfast. Lyle put 2 slices of bread into the toaster and waited patiently for them to pop up with his school bag hanging on one shoulder. Classic. That's weird. Lyle approached the front door and opened it slowly, peering through the small crack to see who his unexpected guest was. We'll take a guess. Good morning! The door suddenly flung open, knocking Lyle to the floor with a tremendous thump. Yo-ho! You really do have too much energy. My mom always says that. How funny. What are you doing on the floor? Lyle groaned and stood up, rubbing his elbow where it landed on it. It's Tilly, right? You're a little early, aren't you? Lyle yawned as he walked back over to the toaster and waited for his breakfast. Tilly followed behind. Early? No, I'm usually late. Let's see. About 10 minutes late this morning. Not including travel time, of course. Huh? No time for snacks, bucko. Let's go. Tilly ran toward Lyle, grabbed his arm, and sprinted out the door with him trailing behind. But... my toast! You won't even let him have the toast hanging from his mouth while he's running to school. Like the cliché. Lyle and Tilly reached the school. The building was quite large, despite the small-town atmosphere surrounding it. It had wide, clear windows on all sides, and an enormous wall encircling it. Once Lyle was pulled beyond the gate and into the main entrance of the building, Tilly released his arm from her eager clutch. I gotta go. You'll find your classroom okay, right? Before Lyle could answer, Tilly was zooming down one of the many hallways toward her classroom. Lyle stood alone in the desolate hall. He looked around, unsure of where to go. I should try to find the main office. I'm not even sure what class I'm supposed to be in. He chose a random hallway and began to walk down it. It wasn't long before he spotted the main office. The door was open, and Lyle could see several staff members bustling around inside. He stood awkwardly at the door for a moment, hoping someone would notice him. After some time, he knocked. Excuse me. A nearby secretary motioned him closer. After some discussion, Lyle was pointed in the right direction. He followed the woman's instructions and reached his classroom with few problems. It was labeled just as she'd said. Lyle stood at the closed door for a moment, listening to the voices behind it. He heard the teacher lecturing and wondered when the best time to interrupt the lesson might be. If you're worried about things like this, just go there in time. I guess no time is a good time. Yeah. Lyle swallowed hard and opened the door. The teacher stopped mid-sentence to adjust the disruption. He raised an unimpressed eyebrow at Lyle as he entered the classroom. Excellent way to start off the semester. I'm not interested in excuses. A loud crash was suddenly heard at the back of the classroom.
You! We're in the same class?
Tilly pointed at Lyle as she spoke, her eyes wide with surprise. She had shot abruptly to her feet, knocking her chair backward onto the floor with a clatter. The other students burst into laughter. That's enough, Tilly. Tilly picked up her chair and slumped back into it with a pout. Have a seat. Lyle lowered his head and shuffled nervously toward an empty desk behind Tilly. He was relieved to be in the same class as her. A friendly face among a classroom of strangers was comforting. Told you. He let out a sigh as their teacher continued the lecture. Once their teacher turned to write on the chalkboard at the front of the class, Tilly spun around and peered at Lyle with an annoyed expression.
Why didn't you tell me we were in the same class?
What? How was I supposed to know? Lyle made sure to whisper, not wanting to disrupt the class again.
Wait. That means we're the same age? I thought you were way younger than me.
What's that supposed to mean? If you'd like detention on the first day, please continue talking. The teacher spoke without turning to face them. The other students giggled under their breath. Tilly faced the front of the classroom and crossed her arms over her chest with a scoff. Great start, really. The school day was long and tiring. Lyle was thankful that he sat beside a window. He rested his chin in his hand and glanced outside at the school's entrance gate, which he had a clear view of. The lunch bell rang. It was time for the students to enjoy a break from their studies. Most of the students left the classroom, but many stayed inside and ate their lunches at their desks. Tilly turned her chair around and sat at Lyle's desk, facing him. She grinned widely.
How do you like it so far?
Alright, I guess. School is school.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about it either.
They shared a chuckle. While they were chatting, Lyle noticed two boys standing near the classroom's entrance. They were talking quietly to each other, but would occasionally glance in his direction. Each time he looked up at them, they would turn away and start snickering. It made Lyle uneasy. After lunch, the lectures continued. Lyle jotted a couple of notes down, but he was finding it difficult to focus. He looked out the window again and let his mind wander. He thought about the dolls, almost forgetting that he had brought one of them to school with him. The reminder made him smile. He couldn't wait to walk home with the doll after school and return it to the other four, waiting for him at home. I don't really get the thought behind it if you're not going to take it out, if you don't want to show anyone. Is it just knowing you have it with you? I don't know. When classes ended for the day, Tilly packed her bag and slung it over her shoulder as she turned to face Lyle.
I gotta run. My mom asked me to pick up some things on my way home. I'll come by your house again tomorrow morning, okay?
Sure, thanks. Lyle smiled as Tilly sprinted out of the classroom. He was lucky to have made a friend so quickly. Maybe things wouldn't be so bad here after all. He picked up his school bag, which was resting on the back of his chair, and left the classroom. He made his way outside and began to walk home. I hope I remember my way back. As he walked, he noticed the two boys from earlier following a short distance behind him. You have nothing better to do. Maybe they live nearby. Lyle ignored them and continued walking. As time passed, the distance between them grew smaller and smaller. It was making him uncomfortable. What did they want? Suddenly, one of the boys bumped into Lyle from behind, causing him to stumble forward and drop his bag onto the ground. Oh, sorry about that. You're such a klutz. It's fine, really. Lyle forced a smile, trying to avoid confrontation. Here, let me get that for you. The first boy picked up Lyle's backpack and handed it to him, but before Lyle could take hold of it, the bully tossed it over to his friend. Oops. Hey, give it back. He made a grab for the bag, trying his best to take it back from them. Why were they doing this? Was his first impression that bad? They didn't seem like the type of students who cared about their class being disrupted. Were they targeting him just because he was new? I don't think anybody knows what's going on in the heads of bullies, do they? Not even themselves. Alright, we'll give it back. Here. The second boy opened Lyle's school bag and dumped its contents onto the street. After it was empty, he threw the bag in Lyle's face. Lyle ran towards his belongings, desperate to hide the doll that had spilled out along with his books. Before he could reach it, however, one of the bullies punched him in the stomach. Ugh. Lyle stumbled backward and grunted heavily, the wind knocked out of him. The violent boy loomed closer as the other rummaged through his things. Tilly's annoying, but she's kinda hot. I didn't think she was into pretty boys. So that's what this was about. These guys had a crush on Tilly and were jealous that Lyle was able to befriend her so easily. Maybe if you guys weren't a couple of jerks, she'd give you the time of day. Still recovering from the blow, Lyle managed to get the insult out from between clenched teeth. He held his stomach tightly with both arms. The pain was intense. He'd never been hit like that before. Let's see if she still wants to talk to you after we mess your face up a bit. The bully clutched Lyle's collar aggressively and reared his fist back for another punch. But before he could swing, he was interrupted by an obnoxious laugh. Lyle's eyes widened as he noticed his doll clutched in the first boy's hands. He had picked it up by its head and was shaking it around to show the other. Nice doll! I knew you looked like a girl, but I didn't think you acted like one too. Look at the stupid thing. Let's rip its eyes off. As silly as it seemed, Lyle was more concerned with the doll's safety than his own. It wasn't the doll's fault it was brought to school that day. It was his. If these kids wanted to beat him up, fine. But if they damaged the doll, Lyle would never forgive himself. No, make him do it. Yeah, come on kid, tear its eyes out. Do it. Lyle's stomach contorted. He had put so much time and energy into making the dolls. He felt an indescribable attachment to them. The thought of tearing off Ellery's button eyes after he had put so much care into sewing them on made him sick. He'd never do it. Lyle's anger gave him a burst of adrenaline. He was determined to get the doll as far away from danger as possible. He pushed one bully away from him, freeing his collar from the boy's grasp, and ran at the other with all the strength he could muster. He reached for the doll and managed to knock it free from the bully's hand. It tumbled out of sight as Lyle was kicked in the stomach in retaliation. Lyle hit the ground hard. He wasn't sure if he'd be able to stand after such a blow, but it didn't matter. Their attention was back on him, and the doll was spared. He braced himself for the next strike, but it never came. A tall figure had stepped in between Lyle and the two boys. Well, wherever did you come from, huh? Now. Lyle looked up to the person in front of him, trying to make out who it was. Cole? No way. Cole would never wear something like that. It was hard to make out from behind, but Lyle could see that the person wore baggy pants and large leather boots. They looked oddly familiar, even though Lyle couldn't see his face. The two bullies were more than surprised at the stranger's sudden appearance. They were completely dumbfounded. The figure took a few steps toward them, rubbing the back of his neck as he approached. "This has gotten a little out of hand, don't you think? You boys should run along." He placed a hand on one of the boy's shoulders and squeezed it tightly. The bully winced, shook free from the hold, then ran off to catch up with his friend, who had fled just moments before. There, that's better. Sorry. He turned around to face Lyle with a soft, sincere smile. "I hope you're not hurt too badly." The throbbing pain in Lyle's stomach prevented him from replying. He attempted to question the stranger, but only a guttural groan escaped. Who was this person? Where did he come from? Why did he help him? Lyle's mind was racing. He managed to muster enough strength to climb back to his feet. The passerby seemed relieved. "Glad to see you on your feet. Take care." The stranger turned his back to Lyle once more and walked away with his hands stuffed casually into his pockets. Lyle struggled to get all his belongings back into his school bag. He couldn't find the doll anywhere. His heart sank deep within his chest. Those jerks probably took off with it. I bet they snatched it while I was distracted. Lyle sighed heavily, unsure what to do. He slowly made his way back home, sniffling at the pain in his stomach and his stolen doll. Lyle spotted a convenience store on his way home. He wasn't far from his neighborhood, but thought he could use a break and walked inside. The store's cool air felt good on his face. He headed toward the back of the shop and grabbed a cold bottle of water. It was about all he could afford right now anyway. He purchased the drink, then stepped back out into the sunshine. Lyle groaned as he carefully sat down on the curb. He opened the bottle and took a swig of the refreshing beverage. He exhaled loudly. Water wasn't going to magically cure the pain in his stomach, but it certainly hit the spot. Oh. That gave Lyle an idea. He tucked the bottle under his school uniform vest and held it against his shirt underneath. A cooling sensation slowly seeped through the fabric and eased his aching abdomen. Maybe you should go to a doctor to be sure, but okay. Sure. First aid and all. It won't last long, but it's better than nothing. He allowed his mind to wander while he rested there. That stranger appeared out of nowhere. Who was he? I wonder if I'll see him again. I want to thank him. I wonder if I'll see my doll again too. Lyle sighed. I can't just make a new one. It wouldn't be the same. If those jerks took off with it, there's no way they'd carry it around for long, right? It means nothing to them unless they're dangling it in my face. Yeah, they'll eventually toss it. There's still a chance I could find it lying around someplace later on. Lyle wouldn't give up on the doll. Whatever happened to it was his fault, and he would take responsibility. He decided that he'd leave for school bright and early tomorrow morning to go looking for it before class started. I'd better turn in early tonight then. Lyle removed the bottle from his vest and splashed some water on his face before standing up. He continued to trudge home. Lyle's eyes widened as he approached the house. The door was wide open, revealing devastation inside. He ran to the doorway and stood, frozen, staring at the turmoil. The house had been turned upside down. Papers and books scattered, tables and chairs knocked over, curtains and clothing torn. They must have been robbed. Lyle leaned against the doorframe and sank, unsure what to do. He placed his head in his hands as his mind raced. How did this happen? Did he forget to lock the door on his way out this morning? That's right. He ran out suddenly with Tilly. This was all his fault. A wave of nausea rushed over him. Wasn't this supposed to be a nice, quiet town? Who could have done this? What did they take? He had no idea. All he could think to do was clean up the mess before Cole got home to lessen the impact. He would be able to find out what was missing in the process and try to break the news to his brother in the best way possible, if such a thing existed. Lyle began to clean and reorganize the house. Every room had been ransacked. The kitchen, the living room, even Cole's study. Why would someone destroy every single room in the house? Wouldn't they just break in and go straight for what they came for? It's like some sick joke. He rubbed his aching stomach. Maybe it was the two boys who bullied him earlier. Would they have gone this far? No, they didn't know where he lived. Maybe it wasn't them after all. Once the entire house was clean, Lyle collapsed on his bed from exhaustion. Cole would be home in about 30 minutes. Just enough time for a nap. He deserved one after everything he had been through today. He probably needed one too. His stomach was still sore. Cole will wake me up when he comes in. I'll explain everything to him then. Lyle closed his eyes and drifted off to sleep. Is he alright? Oh, I'm sure he'll be just fine. He looks completely exhausted. Well, if someone hadn't made a mess of the place. What was that? You heard me. Look, he's waking up. Yay! Yay, he's awake! Shh! Don't frighten him. Lyle's eyes opened slowly. He blinked for a moment, staring blankly at 5 faces above him. Whoa, whoa! Lyle's eyes shot open and he backed up into the corner of his bedroom. Who are you? What do you want? Why are you in my bedroom? He breathed heavily as his eyes darted from one stranger to the next. 'Cause we're always in your bedroom, silly. That sounds creepy. You would know. Eh? Oh, quit squabbling, you two. Someone should explain this to Lyle before he passes out. Lyle blinked. How do you know my name? You know our names too, Lyle. You gave them to us. Lyle's expression slowly changed from panic to confusion. A strange thought crept into his mind. He squinted his eyes in disbelief as he examined the strangers more carefully. Their hair, their clothing, and their presence was somehow familiar to him. His eyes drifted to the desk nearby. The plush dolls that he had arranged on it were now gone. Maybe these strangers weren't strangers after all. They looked just like his dolls. They were his dolls. But how can this be? We're still trying to figure that out ourselves. For whatever reason, our forms are now similar to yours. And we made a mess of the house.
It was so much fun.
Decipher pinched Rook.
Ouch!
We got a little carried away. So, we weren't robbed then? Ellery chuckled. No, we didn't take anything. We may have broken a few things though. By accident, of course. Curiosity got the better of us.
We're all really sorry, Lyle.
Lyle sank to the floor with an intense feeling of relief. He closed his eyes, placed his hand on his chest, and let out a long, heavy sigh as his head fell backward against the wall behind him. It's alright, I guess. Thank goodness we weren't robbed. I was so worried about breaking the news to Cole. He said this quietly, mostly to himself. Cole. Lyle paused. If these dolls had woken him from his nap, then that meant... Cole! Lyle jumped to his feet. Cole will be home any minute. Lyle scrambled to his bedroom window and anxiously peered outside. Sure enough, Cole's car was parked out front. Lyle ran to his bedroom door and opened it slightly. He could hear Cole entering the house downstairs. He's gonna kill me if he sees you guys. Lyle slammed the door shut and ran about his room in a panic. Everyone has to hide. Hurry. He began pushing the 5 human-sized dolls this way and that around the room. He tried to hide one of them in the closet, another under the bed, and even gave a potted plant to one of them, as if that was going to do anything. He was desperate. Cole's footsteps echoed up the stairwell. He was seconds away from the bedroom door. No. What do I do? This bedroom's too small. They're not hidden at all. Suddenly, he heard several popping sounds, and the 5 dolls were gone. Completely gone. Lyle stood alone in his room, utterly speechless. The bedroom door opened slowly, and Cole poked his head in, concerned. Everything okay in here? An unlit cigarette dangled from his bottom lip as he stared at Lyle, who stood stiff and awkward in the center of the room. What the heck are you doing? Dancing. Cole looked more unimpressed than usual. Dancing. Yep, dancing. With no music? It's a, interpretive dance. There's a club at school. See? Lyle struck a ridiculous-looking pose. Cole blinked for a moment, his expression unchanging. You're so weird. He shook his head as he closed the door and made his way back downstairs. Lyle sighed and fell backward onto his bed. He heard the popping sounds once more. That sound effect is cute. Interpretive dance. That's the best you could come up with. I freaked out, okay? With a jolt, he sat up and saw that the 5 figures had reappeared in his bedroom. Wait a second. Where did you all go? How are you back in my room? We were here the whole time. We're able to shift between these human-sized forms and our plush forms at will. It's quite fascinating. It's true. We transformed into our plush forms before Cole entered. You were so distracted with him that you failed to notice us lying on the floor. I don't get down on the floor for just anyone, you know. So that's what that popping sound was. I've heard it before. It was you. You helped me earlier, didn't you? Ellery rubbed the back of his head and gave a sheepish grin. Thank you. You left so suddenly. I thought I missed my chance to thank you. I needed to check on the others in case they'd also changed. How'd you find your way back here anyway? It was a happy little accident. A little accident. Lyle let out a sigh of relief. The house was safe and his lost doll had returned to him. He even had the opportunity to thank his rescuer. Everything seemed to have worked out okay. What do you mean okay? What happens now? Looks like you're stuck with us. We can change back into dolls if you want, but these bodies are fun.
Can we stay here and play with you, Lyle? Please? Please?
We'll try not to cause too much trouble for you. And we won't trash the house anymore. Promise. I don't know. That's a lot to process. Oh, jeez. Yeah, come on. Come on, that's not fair. You aren't giving me much of a choice. Alright, but let's set up some ground rules, okay? The 5 dolls nodded in agreement. First, never transform in front of anyone. You guys aren't exactly a standard occurrence around here. I'm glad that you appeared to stop those jerks today, but if anyone else saw, we might have been in even more trouble. Next, don't leave the house without me. At least for now. I still have to wrap my head around all of this. The last thing I need is to be worried about you guys getting lost or something, you know? And finally, my number 1 rule. This is the most important one, okay? Never let Cole see or hear you under any circumstances. He'll kick all 5 of you out, dolls or not. Got it? Got it! Lyle smiled, grateful for their cooperation. He thought they should shake on it. The rules would seem more official that way. He held his hand out to the dolls for a friendly shake, but they simply stared at it. What's the matter? What would you like us to do? Shake hands. Don't you know how to shake hands? The dolls were obviously puzzled. Rook tilted his head to one side in confusion. Ellery and Cavell shook their heads almost in unison, while Torin and Decipher stared on with blank faces. Lyle brought his hand to his forehead. This process was going to be a lot harder than he thought. I have a lot to teach you guys. Okay, but the rules of this are very unclear. They don't know how handshakes work, but they know how shaking your head with that signals. I cannot be too picky about this. I know. But yeah, that's fun so far. I will, yeah, just overwrite my first save. That's fine. So I'm going to leave it here for today. Again, this is an extended demo and obviously fairly long for a demo. Yep, first impression, we do have some heavy topics in there, but overall, again, I'm hoping for a bit of an uplifting experience. While, yeah, Lyle has to teach these dolls how the world works, basically, and maybe they can teach him something in return. But yeah, as always, I would appreciate if you could let me know what you thought so far in the comments down below, and I will hopefully see you next time. Until then, bye bye!